What's happening?
Hello.
I feel like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, man. I can barely talk. I feel like my nose is like this bright, shiny red thing on the end of my face now.
Oh, I can kind of see it if I look close.
Dude, does it look crooked?
It's just shiny right now, which makes
Dude.
it stand out. But other than that, you're far enough away that I wouldn't be able to tell.
Oh my gosh. I feel like
Just don't mention it.
dude, I'm telling you. Where's Jesse? We got to get Jesse on here. Hold on. Hang on.
You're totally my mirror right now, and you're recording this, which is hilarious. Did you re-recording this already? The recording hasn't started, right?
Can I just tell you that I do have that recorded. I'm totally using that. Dude, that is going to be, I'm totally, dude, seriously, like I'm going to have Tara grab that. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm going to have her grab that. Actually, I'll have Tori grab it. And we're going to use that for B-roll at an event. History.
Like you're not recording this, are you?
Oh
I
my
was
gosh.
picking my nose.
I got to make sure. Were you? That's awesome. I didn't notice.
No, I was not.
That's even better. I'd love to put that on there. Hang on. Okay.
Where's Brian?
I'm trying to figure out where Brian and Jesse are. I know Brian's running late.
He could have just taken the shower afterwards.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. So we're 8:01. Where are these guys? Clubwell TV is supposed to be live right now. Well, we just may have to just get on. Hang on. It's just you and me. I'm just going to interview you.
No.
Yeah. I'm going to interview you about hairstyles for the 90s or for the 2000s. You're going to tell me how to make sure before a pre-webinar, you make sure that you are.
Gosh.
Okay, there's Jesse. So we'll start without Brian. There he is. How's it going, brother?
I was on the wrong link. Hey, guys.
That's okay. That's all right. We're ready to go.
Awesome.
Jesse will win. Vote June 7th. What's that?
That's a Jesse Jackson vintage 1988 campaign poster that one of my agents found at a swap meet.
That is hilarious.
Jesse will win, right?
Oh, we're getting that too, Michael. Just FYI.
That I had to fix my hair?
Yeah, we're getting that too.
You know what's really funny about that? So, Jesse, earlier, you weren't here to see this, but we got really good video of Cheri primping for the
nice.
Here, and it's recorded.
Nice.
So we're going to use that for B-roll later on.
Does Brian have a goatee?
Brian does.
Ah.
Wow, you are looking so tough these days. I can hear you,
boss
Brian.
man.
Hey.
Okay, so what are we talking about today, Jesse?
I didn't realize you were featuring me when I got the email. I thought you wanted me to be on this thing. So if we're featuring me, let's talk about I'm going to go what have you talked about in a while? Can we talk about systems and initial buyer consultation, systemizing listing presentations? Want to talk about health, energy? Does anyone talk about that stuff? Does anyone care? We want to talk about how cool Cheri and Brian are. I mean, what do you?
No.
No.
That's next week.
Oh, good.
It's all you, buddy.
Cool.
Okay, hold on. All right, and
can you guys still hear me okay like this? Is it audio okay if I get rid of the headset? None of you guys have headsets, yeah.
It's a little echoey.
All right, I'll put it back on. So we got systems, energy. What else?
Let's see, back on.
Please don't mention anything. FYI, do not roll it to me when we're talking about exercise.
I don't have to talk about that at all. I know we don't
Okay.
talk about it all that often in Club Wealth. I just feel like if it's something that's going well that I'm excited about, it's
Okay.
You can talk about it. It's fine.
it's something.
I know it's a good thing. I
it's
believe
something
it.
it's something my coach in this box am I pointing at him on your screen also? Am I pointing at Michael? It's something
No, it's a diagonal on my screen.
we're all different. All right, so
Yeah.
it's something he's always telling me that I just need to focus on making sure I can keep my energy consistently up. Michael, what else do you want to focus on today?
Okay, I was just saying, varied topics ranging from buyer consultations, listing presentations, systems, energy, and overall success strategy for real estate agents.
That
All
works.
right, share to the page.
I can't say I've been holding buyer seminars and crushing it like who is it? Rachel? Rachel has her
That's
Club
the
Wealth
buyer
TV.
seminars. Brian's been doing good with consultations. So let's get started, though. It's 5 after. You guys ready to go?
Ready?
Go.
Everybody else? Here we go. And we're live. Hey, everybody. Michael Hellickson here with Club Wealth TV. Welcome. Super excited to see everybody today. And we have got an all-star group of agents today on Club Wealth TV. All of you, or I should say the vast majority of you, know everybody on the call today. We're talking about Cheri, the powerhouse Benjamin.
You're so funny.
Dude, let me tell you, actually, I should say Cheri, the lioness Benjamin.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And,
Yeah, that's
of
right.
course, we've got Brian Curtis with us, Jesse Zagorsky. Let me just tell you a little bit about these guys real quick. For those of you that don't already know them, Brian Curtis is in a little town that we affectionately like to call Bentonville, Arkansas. I say that because nobody really knows where that's at. Frankly, I'm not even sure it exists, and I've been there. But that being said, Brian crushes it in Bentonville. And last year did, I want to say, just over 300 transactions, 330 transactions, something like that. Just absolutely destroying it there, doing a great job, and has a wonderful team there. Shout out to Eric Eby on his team. And by the way, I see we've got Melissa Forsyth, Josh Zollinger, Tara, Nancy, Sharon. Everybody's joining us. I love it. We got people logging in like crazy. But Brian is doing just such a great job over there in Bentonville. We actually love what he's doing. Cheri Benjamin is also, as Brian is, also a coach with Club Wealth Coaching and Consulting. Cheri is in Atlanta, Georgia. And I love that, Cheri, that you've got that on your profile name there so that everybody can see on the video here where you're from.
Is it now officially Club Wealth Coaching and Consulting?
Did
you is that always been a part of it?
Yeah.
But we just really haven't said the whole name because it takes longer to say it.
I never realized that. That's a very long name. That's good. I like
Kind
it.
of is. Yeah, it is. But it really kind of epitomizes really more or it articulates a little bit better kind of what we do. It's not just coaching, right? It's not just, hey, how many calls did you make? How many contacts? Like that's not our
That's
stuff,
right.
right? It's really more consultative, right? It's really more about what are you doing? How are you doing it? Is it working? And what's not working? And how do we fix the things that aren't working and improve and grow? So anyway, that being
100% agree. 100% agree.
Yeah, no, I love it. So it's really more consulting. Anyway, that being said, Cheri Benjamin in Atlanta, Georgia, went from solo agent to 25 people on her team literally in like 18 months. And in the last 12 months, so in 2017, pushed 250 transactions. This year, she's on track, hopefully, to close. I'm hoping we're going to see about 500 transactions out of Cheri and her team. So very excited about that. And in fact, it would surprise me if you didn't hit that number.
Me too.
Well, I'd get better. I tell you what we want to see is we want to see you hit that number, because if you don't, we are going to completely berate you in public.
I know.
I'm just kidding. I totally.
If she doesn't hit 500, you're
No,
gonna berate
Jesse.
her in public. Is that what you? I'm not setting up accountability. I'm more being. Don't worry, Cheri. I'm more being amazed at the bar being set so high that you're like, if you don't hit 500, we're gonna berate you. What? You're playing at such a big level. I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah, but Jesse, don't forget, we're still waiting to see if you have to wear a tutu at BSL.
Oh,
You don't want me to shift focus away from that?
Yeah, that's right.
awesome. I got to tell you though, Jesse, to your point, when I used to come in from listing appointments every day, my listing coordinator, Stephanie, literally, she would, if I had brought back less than 5 listings in a day, she would berate me. She would completely give me a hard time. She'd say stuff like, "What's your problem? Did you take half the day off? What, did you decide not to go on your appointments? Like, are we not listing houses anymore? Is there a policy change I'm not aware of? Like, what's the problem?" And I'll tell you, it was very encouraging. It really helped me to want to get out there and do more. And so I really appreciated that about her. So anyway,
let me just share while you're there, Michael. Not everyone responds to that sort of. For all people who are team leaders who think that they need to now berate their listing agents, that may not be the best approach.
No, that was my listing coordinator that was doing that. Like, well, the rest of the team was giving me encouragement. But
the team leaders are listening, going, "Great, now I can get to tell these." No, that's not.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah, good point. Good point. And by the way, I see we've got Lexi Taylor, Michelle Berquist, Dorothy. We got Orlando, Denise, Jeff, Lindsay, Will, Oscar, Antonio, Tracy. Everybody's watching. I love this. This is great. We got a great group today. And so finally, I wanted to introduce Mr. Jesse Zagorsky. Jesse, as you guys know, is in San Diego, California. Everybody knows where that's at. So next time you've got a referral in San Diego, shoot it Jesse's way. Let me tell you, this guy is a baller. Jesse consistently does over $1 million a year in gross commission income. And more importantly, he does it with a smile. And people love Jesse. I got to tell you, to know Jesse is to love him. It's funny because people, and Jesse, I want to get into this part of the conversation with you today. People, I think, believe that for the 4 of us, that things just come easily and that success just comes naturally to us, and that it's easier for us than it is for other people. And I think that that's kind of a pretty good place for us to start today in terms of, is that true? Is success easy for the 4 of us, or do we go through challenges as well? And if we do, what are they, and how are we overcoming those? Jesse Zagorsky, welcome. Talk to us.
Yeah, good place to start. The beginning of this year definitely had some challenges. And still, it's interesting that, this was yesterday I got the invite and said, "Hey, Jesse, can you do the Club Well TV tomorrow?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." And so I think I would have rather do this a couple months from now when there was a tail end to this story of like, beginning of the year was rough, but now like we're totally kicking because it's just starting to crank back up. But heck, we'll do it now. It's real. It's transparent, right? Yeah. So we sold more homes January of this year than last year and managed to lose money. Ouch. Right? That's and I know Brian's smiling because if you've heard Brian's story, he had in his past a similar story, and it's not something that comes easy. That's stressful. And it wasn't just like 1 month, okay, we lost money and then now we're making hundreds of thousands of dollars each month again. It's a slow build back up. And I don't know how much we want to dive into it in this call, but I expanded my overhead faster than the gross revenue coming in. So even though gross revenue kicked in, and Michael, as my coach, we had these conversations, we knew I was pushing what I was trying to do in order to take on a new space and kind of grow more quickly. It happens, right? It's part of the growth that you go through that now I'm pushing through it. So that's why I'm actually really thrilled to be on the call with Cheri and Brian, because I'm still hovering around 10 agents on the team when I really need to be at 20. So in order to get back to total profitability. However, right now we're back up. We have about 88,000 in pending commissions right now, which makes me a lot happier when I look at our books. I'm like, oh, good, okay. So was that easy? Did that happen overnight? No. What I had to do is really, and if you want to jump in as part of this conversation, I mainly was focusing on being a team leader, and I got back into production. And it was something, because I had expanded our expenses faster, I was like, okay, I got to jump in. I got to generate some revenue. And that's one of the things I am really good at, is knowing how to make money with clients. And it's not because I'm focused on dollar signs. It's because I listen to my clients' needs and focused on them. And I have 5 buyers all out actively writing offers on houses right now, and I haven't worked with a buyer in over a year. So within the last couple of months, I filled my pipeline back up, and we can talk about what I did and what needed to happen there. But yeah, this is not an easy road for anybody until you get to the point where you are listing consistently, 10 houses a day, Michael? And then when you slack to 5, it's still easy. But until you hit that momentum, they're probably super tough days, right?
I don't even think, I'll be honest with you, the best day, I did have one day that I listed 12 houses, and I got to tell you, that was a long freaking day. But I got to tell you, 5 is a great day. 5 houses in a day, pat yourself on the back. That's a good day.
5 hours is good. And Cheri and Brian, I mean, do you guys agree? Is this something that you just wake up and it comes easily, or?
Well, I wake up at 4, and that doesn't come easily. But no, it doesn't. It doesn't. And for me, I needed to make sure I made a very conscious effort to look at my numbers just about every day. I pay attention to it every day. And I am very, I went through the same shift that you're talking about, Jesse. And in talking with my coach, who I don't know where he sits on the screen, but it's Brian Curtis there. Hey there, Brian. So I made sure that when I grew, I had the right amount of people that were there. I wanted to stay out of production. So I'm out of production, and the biggest key for me was to stay out of production, to not go back into production. So I'm probably one of the most frugal people. I always say that's out there, because, and Brian's nodding his head yes, because he knows.
AKA cheap.
Listen, I'm a mom of 5, and there's a lot of teenagers in the house, and they're very expensive. So I do run things that way also. But you just have to pay a lot of attention to that. Like we were saying, you start off early. It's a 4 a.m. wake up. I remember getting that phone call from Michael where we were talking, and he says, Cheri, how many deals are you going to close this year? And I said, I'm going to be right under 100. He says, what? What do you mean right under? No, you need to get to 100. I'm like, Michael, it's like November the 15th. Where am I supposed to find another 12 deals from? And he goes, get up earlier. What time are you getting up? You need to be up at 4 a.m. Well, Michael, I have an infant. And if you don't know, he doesn't sleep through the night yet. And I'm really tired. So I like to sleep. I need a little bit more than 4 a.m. sleep. He wakes up twice at night. And I did it. You know what? It was just all in. So I'm similar to you, Jesse. You know, we go all in with it. And I did it. And I suffered through those nights, and it made a world of change. So I believe it's in how you start your day. But no, success is hard.
Can I give a quick tip on waking up early, and then because I want you to go wherever you're going with that, Michael. But those of you who get up early on this call, and anyone watching, if you're commenting, does anybody wake up at whether it's 4 a.m., 5 a.m., whatever time, and you wake up and you're just like immediately awake and alive? I don't. Right? Every time, because I get up early too. Every time I wake up I'm like, But it's once you get yourself out of bed, it's that first step that you take. But usually for me, it's by the time I'm 10, 15 minutes into my exercise, which is the first thing I do when I wake up. That's when I start to feel alive. I'm like, I am so grateful that I'm awake at this time. So if you're trying to wake up earlier and your alarm goes off, you're like, I am so tired. You're right on track. That is actually normal, I think. Do you guys agree with that?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. But we can get back to that later. Anyway, go ahead, Mike. What were we going to say about
I
Cheri?
definitely don't jump out of bed every morning saying, yes, I'm alive. Yeah. You know, it's just, as much as I'd like to say that's me, that's not the case. What I wanted to know, though, was, Cheri, did you get the 12 transactions?
I did. I did. I think I got a little bit more than that, but I did. But it was.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I did. I got it done.
I want to share this, though, because this is a common thing that I see amongst top producing agents. And Cheri, you are no exception to this. With top producing agents, I oftentimes, and you guys hear me do this all the time, I'll throw out a big challenge for somebody. And I'm careful about who I do this with and when I do it. But if I believe in my mind that you have the ability to do something bigger than what you think you can do, I'm going to push you for it. I'm going to say something like, you know what, Cheri, I'll bet you could get those extra 12 transactions this year. Now quit making excuses and go freaking do it. Right.
And that's how he said it.
Yeah. But I mean, but really, truly, and what happens a lot of times, sometimes and I'm talking about all of us, right? At times we need someone else's permission to go be world class. Sometimes we need someone else's permission to go crush it and do something that we didn't really believe that we could do, because unconsciously, I think sometimes we give ourselves permission to slack off, particularly toward the end of the year, thinking, oh, it's been a good year. Okay, I can breathe now. Whoosh. And what you forget is, hey, wait a minute. This is when I need to turn and burn. This is when I'm setting up my following year. And so here we are. Now we're in April, and as we record this, and I know that there's a lot of people watching this that are thinking to themselves, man, this winter was kind of a tough winter. Well, guess what? For a lot of people, it's because we slacked off in the late fall. But now, that being said, there were certainly market conditions that impacted that for a lot of us, or for a lot of you, I should say. But what I'm getting at is, no matter what month it is, no matter what you think you can do, find that next gear. Find that ability to just dig a little bit deeper and get at it. Now, Jesse, to your point, careful what you ask for, Dale. Dale Kessler's posting in the group right now. He's on the page.
I need one of those Michael Hellickson challenges. I see that.
Careful what you ask for, Dale. You too will be on a webinar soon, and I'll be having that conversation with you. Let me tell you, and Jesse knows Dale. Dale's a good guy.
Oh yeah.
So Dale's one of our coaching clients. But anyway, that being said, what I would suggest is that all of us have to find that extra gear. We've all got to dig a little bit deeper to make that happen. And so anyway, Jesse, go ahead. You had something you wanted to add.
I heard a really interesting quote lately, and I don't know if we want to dive in this direction, but hey, we're just going wherever we go today, right? I heard a quote that was make fear a tailwind instead of a headwind. Right? And that's something that it was actually from an HBO show called The Defiant Ones. Have any of you guys seen that one called The Defiant Ones? It's a documentary on Jimmy Iovine, who's a record label guy, and Dr. Dre, and the history of how they built up to forming the company Beats, which they sold to Apple for $3 billion. It's a really cool 4-part series, a total side note. But so there was a quote, and he was talking about it, that for the beginning of his life, fear was a headwind, right? So when you come into struggle, you can either feel like you're running into the wind and the fear just shuts you down, or if you make it a tailwind and it's something that just drives you. That's really something that I've been focusing on since January. And it's not something that can always happen like this. Sometimes I got to retrain my brain. And I tell myself over and over again, it's a daily thing where I'm just telling myself, make fear a tailwind, make fear a tailwind. And I love the way that's phrased, and it starts to kick in after a while. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, it does. So Jesse, speaking of which, let's go back to the production, being whether or not to be in production or you're out of production.
Yeah.
Because I heard Cheri say earlier, hey, I'm out of production. I do everything I can to stay out of production. And I heard Jesse say something that's very important. Brian, you and I have talked about this several times about when is it right for an agent to come out of production, for a team leader to come out of production? How do I know when that is? And when is it the right thing to either get or stay in production?
You're looking at me or Brian?
I'm going to start with you, Jesse.
So I think I got out of production too early. I really do. And I think at the time you and I thought the trajectory, the momentum we had been building through the winter, which were the slow months, looked like, hey, this is a good time. But things don't always go as planned, right? And so I think for me, I did have reserves in our account, the business account reserves that could sustain it. At the same time, if I would have stayed in production consciously a little longer, it would have given me a longer ramp. And I think part of the pressure is, one, just as it's always been my vision to be a business owner, right? Having a job versus a business. I think a lot of us in real estate are driven to have a business versus having a job. And if that's your goal, I'm impatient. I want to get out of production as quick as possible. Not because I don't love my clients, but because to be a business owner, you can't have these daily responsibilities that clients bring. At the same time, in San Diego, commissions are pretty high, right? Price points are high. And so staying in production allows me, even a low-priced home in San Diego, right? Because I have $1 million, $2 million clients, but even a low-priced home is like $500,000 is the average price, $550 is the average in San Diego. That's still a $12,000 commission, right? You get a couple of those. And so to get out of production on that, while it's still something I'm now working back towards, it was once I embraced, it was a mental shift to embrace, you know what, I don't need to be out of production. I can do what I'm doing running the business and still have a small group of clients that I'm working with and really help profitability. It's all about cash flow from a business standpoint. And does you guys agree with that? I'm seeing some nods.
No, absolutely. So here's the problem though. And a lot of people try and get out of production too early, right? The big key, and Cheri, I think that you will agree with me on this, and frankly, you're proof positive of it. The key to getting out of production is one thing, in my opinion, and I would love to know what you think. There's one key to getting and staying out of production that absolutely has to happen no matter what. Andrew's raising her hand. She's like, I know.
I know what it is too. It's like the movie City Slickers. Do you guys remember that movie where Curly says the secret to life is one thing, but then he dies before he says what it is? I think we should end the webinar right here and let everyone figure out what the one thing is. No.
That's funny.
It's recruiting, right?
It is. It's recruiting. And, and it's not just recruiting. It's consistently recruiting at a high level, right? Just like we have to lead generate, lead follow up, and lead convert at a high level to get transactions happening, we have to recruit at a high level to continue growing our teams and to create that pipeline of agents, just like we have a pipeline of leads, right? You have agents coming into your business and they're not going to be productive for 6 months, right? Or maybe not real productive for 6 months. Brian, how long does it take from the time you hire an agent today till they start closing transactions?
I give them 90 days. And sometimes it takes longer. It's funny. I hear all these people about hire slow, fire fast. Is that what this says? I don't know. I ignore it, so I don't know what it means. But it's really interesting when you listen to these people go, I had this guy on my team and, he just wasn't cutting it. And if I fired all the people who weren't cutting it after 60 days, I wouldn't have a very big team, because here's the thing, it takes a while. It's a ramp, this whole thing. So we've taken these people who either were selling real estate poorly as a group. The reason they joined our team was not because they were making $1 million being a solo agent. They joined our team because most of the time they weren't making it as a solo agent, or, they're new. And again, that's not a diss on anybody, because here's the thing. Some people are great on a team and kill it and will make more money than the team leader. So it's not necessarily a diss on them for that. But, for whatever reason, they weren't being successful. And then you come on my team and then 3 weeks later, you're supposed to close a deal. I'm not saying that never happens, but it's kind of an unrealistic expectation. We have to change mindset. We have to change process. We have to change habits. 63 days to change a habit, by the way. The study of saying 21 days, that's apparently relatively inaccurate. The new number is 63. But, it's just one of those things out there that it's not like, oh, I'll snap my fingers and look, I'm better than I ever was before. So, if I've got a guy on my team who closed 5 or 6 deals at the end of last year, like in 1 month, who, if I'd have followed that 90-day rule, wouldn't even be on my team.
Yep.
So
I've got the same
it takes a time. There's ramp up for sure.
And not only that, and Brian and Cheri, I'm curious if you found this, even once someone ramps up and they start doing well, it's not always a consistent ride. And it's not because they aren't it's not because anything on them is their skills. Sometimes it's motivation. Sometimes it has nothing to do with it. It's life circumstances. I have an agent on my team who was ramping up, and she was just starting to do consistently, a good volume of deals, and terrible back problems. Literally, has been unable to walk. Guess how hard it is to be a real estate. And some days she can, she's better. Some days she's worse. How hard is it to be a real estate agent if you can't get up and walk around and show people houses?
Well, here's another thing that people don't realize. So is anyone buying only right here, right now leads? I'm not. And I wish I knew where they were at, because I would buy more of them. Yeah. So there are sources. I mean, you can tier them. We can go into, that's a whole different webinar. But, source A that is a right here, right now lead. We can all agree probably a sign call is the rules, right here, right now lead. But I don't have 100 of those a day. I don't have 100 of those a week. So the question then becomes and this is what I tell people, the reason that you're maybe not doing as well as this guy over here, it's not skill set, it's not effort, it's you don't have 6 months ago. You joined my team last week, you've got no pipeline. I wish that we could just go bam, and all of a sudden now we've got, I've got 10 people in the pipe and we're ready to go. But, Michael's famous words are, the fortune's in the follow-up. Well, if you don't have anybody to follow up with, it's hard to build that fortune. So it's a compound effect, and that's one of my big things that I'm into right now is just let's take these little tiny steps over and over and over again. Oh my God, I just put myself to sleep, but guess what? I got rich. So little things that we do every single day that builds up a pipeline. And again, 6 months ago didn't exist. So when you start building that 6 months, my favorite thing is someone says on my team, yeah, I've been working with this guy for a year and a half, and we finally looked at a house and we put him under contract. And then everyone else goes, oh, Brian wasn't lying. So it's really important to understand that this is not a snap your fingers and I can go do it business. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but to really be successful, it's about building a pipe over time.
Well, here's some. Oh, go ahead, Cheri. Go ahead.
So for me, we have 33 agents, and I have enough leads for 53 agents. So I don't stop recruiting. I never stop recruiting. We're recruiting every single day. We onboard every single week, and we train them. And to your point, with it taking so long, in giving them something every day. So I shouldn't say every day, we don't on Fridays, but 4 days a week, we are literally training them. We're training them. They can pop in and out of training if they've been with us for a while. And we actually sometimes do that. Hey, go back into scripts training, go back into, buyer consults training, but we're constantly training them. It never stops. But it's shifted how long it's taken for them to go under contract. So whereas before, we're talking about planning for the winter months, I planned for my December and June. I knew that how many people I had there for June is going to shape what my December, and then July is shaping my January. That's why, February wasn't the best of months for me. January was actually pretty nice for me this year. February wasn't the best of months, and then March just knocked it all out of the park. But it's because I planned 6 months prior to. Because I had in my mind, it's going to really take 5 months. I have a girl who English is not her first language at all, but she's on every single training, and I force her to be on every single training over and over again. She's been with us for 6 months, and to what you're saying, Brian, now her pipeline kicked in. In March, I think she closed 8 deals in March. She's already, it's April the 17th, and she's had 5 closings so far, and it's April the 17th. And nice. So, but it's because of her pipeline. But she listened. She stayed. She was making the phone calls. That's the piece that a lot of agents aren't doing, is they're not staying consistent with it. I think sometimes I've told people before I joined a team. I think joining a team is ridiculously smart. I really do. I think it's super smart. Like, I get to take my whole check to my family. I don't have to pay for the overheads. I don't have to have the Zillow spend and the office space and the cute little Z team.
The little signs.
You get to give it to me.
That's right.
You give it to me.
That's right.
And I get to get trained and coached by someone whose brain knows far more than what I do. And it's awesome. To me, it's awesome as long as that leadership's there and that training is there. So,
well, and sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Michael.
I want to take that to the next level because I think you're right on. First of all, Cheri, you gotta hold up your hands for me. I just got to tell you, I love the pink nails. Freaking love it. Awesome. In fact, I can't show you right now because I'm wearing shoes, but my toenails are painted the same color. I'm kidding. Totally joking. Not true. All right. So that being said, the problem that most agents have, and by the way, shout out to Tristan Ahumada who's watching right now, Eric Rodriguez, Kristen Kalski, Odalis, welcome you guys. The problem that most agents have, especially when they join a team, or whether they're on their own or join a team, but particularly the people that join a team, they come in and they get fed leads, and a lot of times they get to take over someone else's pipeline, which is really great, right? Because those leads are so far down the road that they're closer to actually closing. But what happens is these people come into a team and they literally get to where they're 4 or 5 months in, and they're just starting to get there, and they quit, and they're literally 3 feet from gold. They're right there. And honestly, like that for me is tragic, because if they would have just stuck with it, their life was about to change for the better and forever.
And what you said is a good point, because when they leave and those leads get transferred over, that other person gets all that gold.
That's
and
right.
They do. Every time, if we have anyone that leaves a team and we transfer, all of a sudden the contracts just start coming in because they quit right when they were right there.
Well, and to your point, because those things start coming in right away, because what happened toward the end for that person, those last, 30 days, 60 days or whatever, they weren't doing as great a job on the follow-up. They started to slow down on their follow-up. And so now somebody else comes in with renewed energy, renewed vigor. And what do? They get in there, they follow up tenaciously with them, and bam, they start getting a ton of closings. So yeah, it's a big deal. All right. Go ahead, Jesse, what were you going to say?
I just want to chime in from my own personal experience from getting back into production at the beginning of this year. I'm impatient, just like everyone else watching this, I guarantee. Even though I think, well, I've done this for years, I'm good at what I do. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I mean that, like, I've done this for so long, and I teach sales training. I know all these things. I know what I should be doing and saying, and yet it still takes a while to build the pipeline. And you really have to fight against your own impatience. Or I found I needed to fight against my own impatience of why don't I already have 5 in escrow? right? It's a very natural mindset. And looking at that, you have to look at the pipeline as to what's coming, or have your team leader or someone else from the outside, your coach, look at it for you and say, yes, things are building, or no, you actually really aren't doing enough, right? You need someone from the outside, I think, to give you that perspective sometimes. And then go back to on our daily huddle every day, which is actually going on right now. I have someone else leading our daily huddle, right? We start every huddle focusing on the wins. And I always ask questions to dive into the specific background of what made it a win. I'll pull up the CRM. Hey, I booked an appointment with so-and-so. We'll pull it up. Do you know that you made 13 follow-up attempts, emails, texts, whatever, before booking the first appointment? You know that you've been working with them for this amount of time before putting them in the contract. Showing those details. So whether you're doing this on a team, or if you're a solo agent, doing it for having someone do it with yourself, or you're doing it, going back and looking at that just proves to you exactly what we're saying. Oh, this really does work. Consistent follow-up really does pay off. So that's why I like digging into those details.
All right. So first of all, you're 100% correct. So now translate that into recruiting, because we talk about this in terms of our leads, but you know, and this is one of the reasons why I love Wise Hire, right? And we talk about Wise Hire a lot, love these guys. And it's not that they're going to do all the recruiting for us. That's not what we're saying at all. That's one component to the recruiting process. But like, for example, if you talk to Mike Bernier or Long Doan as an example, right? These guys have systems in place that consistently keep them in front of all the agents in their marketplace, that consistently bring value to those agents, and they've got systems that consistently are recruiting these agents as well. So what I want to know from all three of you is, what are you doing to either automate or somehow make sure that your recruiting process is consistent, and that you're building that pipeline of agents, whether they be newly licensed or experienced, that are going to be coming into your team in the next 2, 4, 6, 8 months?
So I'll let Brian and Cheri think about their answer for a minute. And I just want to say, you just reminded me that I actually have a stack of Wise Hire resumes back from September that I've had on drip email, and I added them on Facebook as friends, but I've done nothing to actually follow up with. And right. And I just realized, like, it's the same thing. So there you go. Thank you. Being on this Clubhouse TV. So
I think she just called you out, Jesse.
No, it totally was, because you can set up automated things, and I love that you have some automated things, and there are ways to set up automation that people will come to you. But picking up the phone sometimes, that's what I'm good at. That's what I do, is the fortunes in the follow-up. And I think there's no shortage of just picking up the phone and checking up these people that way. So go ahead, Cheri and Brian. What do you guys do on the automation side?
You want to go? You want me to go? Okay. So I have someone that does my recruiting. Ding, 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 ding. I leverage mine out there, Jesse.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
I
a big
leverage
deal.
mine out. So she works on a system. They're in a system. She makes those phone calls. There's a certain amount of phone calls that she has to do per day that we track. We use Sly Broadcast also. But that's what we do. I had to shift that. I remember having one of my agents once said, well, what do you do all day? I'm like, a whole lot. I'm up at 4 to get stuff done. But yeah, so I have someone that I've hired for recruiting. And if you look at, in reference to leverage, how much that has helped me and how much that has helped our businesses, I mean, she more than pays for herself.
That's awesome. Brian?
So it's interesting, we're talking about recruiting, because I actually turned my recruiting off for the last 4 months. And the reason being, well, there's a good reason for it. No, not ball dropped, because disaster averted. Because here's the thing, I just switched brokerages. I started my own brokerage. Last thing I wanted to do was bring 5 people on my team and go, by the way, we're all going to move. And that's why I did it. So with that in mind, though, there's lots of things that we can do to automate. So I was actually talking to a coaching client about this yesterday. So I've actually suggested to 2 or 3 of my coaching clients that they get a separate CRM just for doing recruiting, because it becomes a nightmare. I mean, my follow-up boss, when I look at, I think we have 29,000 people in it. The last thing I need to do is try and sort another, say there's about 3,000 people in my MLS. Last thing I need to do is sort another 3,000 people. And honestly, my CRM doesn't do all this stuff that I want to do for recruiting. It doesn't do text messaging, for example, but something like Lion's Desk, and I'm not I have no affiliation with them. I've never actually even used it, but it's an example that they'll do text messages for you. So you can literally build out a campaign, just like pretend it's a buyer, pretend it's a seller. Build out a campaign. You can include slide outs, you can include text messages, you can do video text, you can do email, and then basically just build that pipe. But here's the whole thing that I think people miss. People miss this on the prospecting side, and they miss it on the recruiting side. It's still a people business. And if you're a team leader, let's assume for the sake of this conversation, you haven't hired a recruiter like Cheri. You know, Michael always says if there's a job that you haven't hired somebody for, it's your job. So ultimately, as a team leader, it's really not that challenging if you think about it. If you got up as a team leader and called 10 people a day, that's 50 people a week. That's about 220 people a month. I'm going to guess if everyone was listening that there's probably not a person on here as a whole, there's one or two, I'm sure, that calls 220 people a month and asks them to join their team. So, and how long does it take to call 10 people? So if you really think about it, we're all like, oh, this is so hard. This is so hard. It's so hard to make it happen easily, but it's just like everything else, do a little bit of work. And you know, because we talked about being out of production earlier. So one of the biggest challenges that people get when they get out of production, by the way, is they become less productive. And what I mean by that is it's real simple to go, I've got to go on this appointment and this appointment and this appointment today. I've got to lead generate from 8 o'clock until 10 o'clock. I got to do my follow-up. Guess what? When I take all of that away from you, how many hours did I just give back to you? And most team leaders, and the honest ones will admit it, their time now gets filled up with things that's not making them money.
Yep.
I don't know if that's what happened with you, Jesse. I'm not saying that. I wasn't there to watch what happened. But I can tell you that personally, when I reduced my production, that I was like, wow, I got all this free time. And theoretically, what I should have done is filled it with all these projects that I needed to complete to make my team better. And that's what I promised my team, by the way. So when I stood up in front of my team and said, my goal is to do less deals than I did last year, they looked at me like I was insane. And I said, that's for you. It's not for me. And what I want to do is do less transactions so that I can get better at this system, get better at this system, help you guys get better, give you more opportunities, get you in front of more clients, and work all that stuff out. Most team leaders go, woohoo, I'm out of production. And then they fill their time with time wasters, you know, what I call quadrant 3 things that feel really urgent and aren't even important. So, you know, that's the difference, I think, between a good team leader getting out of production. Again, Jesse, I'm not talking about you. I feel bad by doing that. But when you do it correctly, that's one of the things you can do. And let me say this, because we mentioned this earlier, is I believe if you're a team leader and you're paying your listing agent somewhere between 40 and 50%, which is honestly what most people are paying their listing agents, you need 3 people to replace you. Most people try and replace themselves with 1. You need 3. You're paying, you're getting a smaller percentage. And by the way, I believe there are listing agents on my team now who are better listing agents than I was, but that wasn't true when I first hired them because, you know, they were learning. You know, they were great buyer's agents and I transitioned them to being listing agents, but it wasn't like they're all of a sudden they're listing agent rock stars. You know, why do we not let buyer's agents go on listing appointments? Because if you go on 2 listing appointments a year, you're not good at it. You know, after you've been on 5 listing appointments, you're not a listing agent rock star. You haven't even seen enough to trip over a deal. So, you know, understand that just hiring somebody to replace you is really kind of delusional because guess what? If you're a team leader and you've been really productive, you're pretty good at this. And I'm not trying to pat any of those people on the back, but the truth is you're good at it. So the other thing that I think is important is, do you have a system? And what I mean by that is some of us as team leaders, as listing agents, and I'm one of the worst, is I can wing it better than most people I know. Guess what? I can't teach wing it. I have to have a system in place. What happens here and here and here and here. And if you want to find the holes in your systems, ask somebody else to be you for a day. And then you realize that your system is full of holes. And you have to come up and you have to patch those holes, come up with good systems so that the people can go and do the things that you do without winging it. Because we shouldn't ask them to wing it because it's not fair and it's not productive.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And it's interesting because you talk about the fact that now you've got these listing agents that are actually better at you than you were at listing. And it's true. When you train them properly and you give them all the tools to technology support and help that they need to be successful, you take everything else off their plate, guess what? They can be successful. The key though, and you mentioned this, you touched on this, if you really want to get out of production, for those of you that are watching, you really want to get out of production someday, if you're going to do it right, you have to make sure that when you free up those hours by hiring these other people, these listing agents, buyers agents, whomever, you've got to replace that time with dollar productive activities, specifically with recruiting. And recruiting is such a big, huge part of that. So anybody have anything to add to that before we move on to the next topic?
Well, I mean, think about it. It's the same thing as when you come out to recruiting, when they say don't turn off your, you don't turn off your open sign or your advertisement sign. It's the same thing. You know, you always want to be getting more buyers and sellers in, and you always want to be getting more agents in. And some people do get to that point and they say, well, I can't do this. Yes, you can. You can find the time. What time are you getting up? Get up earlier. That's what I say. So. A little tough, but
you have to get up earlier or work later or just get more efficient in the day, right?
You know, get more efficient in the day. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, but you're right. I'm always hiring, right? Whether it's for administrative positions or sales positions or whatever, I'm always hiring. In fact, we now are doing interviews every 2 weeks. We do interviews. So some of those people are coming in for admin team interviews. Some of them are coming in for sales interviews. But every 2 weeks, no matter what, I've got group interviews, and I'm looking for that person. I don't know who it is. I don't care at this point. All I know is I'm looking for that rock star. And if I find a rock star and I don't have a position for him, I'll figure out a way to create a position for him because I want the freaking rock stars.
So let's talk about this, though, because this is where, well, and I agree with what you said. But here's the thing that I feel like so many people miss. Hire the good guy.
Yep.
Or the good woman. I'm not saying don't hire the rock star. Absolutely.
Yep.
But here's the thing. Honestly, developing a rock star is more likely than just hiring one out of the gate. And so many people are like, well, that guy, I didn't want to talk. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. And my question is, are you willing to work? Do you have a reason to work? This number 2 is far more important than anything else. If you don't have a reason to work, be scared of those people. I hired a gentleman who didn't need to work, and I didn't know he didn't need to work. And it took me 6 months to remotivate him, and he's doing great now, but I didn't know because I didn't find out why. But if you hire somebody whose spouse makes $300,000 a year, you better find out if that person is really interested in working or they're doing it as a hobby. And there's nothing wrong with doing it as a hobby. You just don't get to do it a hobby.
Yeah.
So, find out why.
Hire for the will because you can train the skill. Hire for the will.
But I was just going to say, but doesn't that make them a rock star? Like maybe we're talking about, maybe we should define what do you mean when you say a rock star? Because what you're describing, Brian, motivation makes you a rock star, right? Like that is a rock star. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, some people, everybody has a cap.
Okay.
I gotta hit this one. This one's one of my favorites. It's Jim Rohn all day long, right? If you have an idiot and you motivate him, all you got now is a motivated idiot, right? So motivation alone is not enough.
Fair enough.
Michael, we're not splitting the atom. And what I mean by that is it's not what we do. It's not that complex. Now, there's complexities that come with it, but usually as team leaders or other people, we can fix that. So, I've got people on my team who I have to tell them something 4 or 5 times before they get it. And I'm like, boy, that seems rather simple. But that's okay because you know what? They're out there killing it. And, sometimes we clean up a little bit more mess. And I had that discussion with one of my coaching clients yesterday. You don't need someone who fills out the contract perfectly. I'm not suggesting that we break the law or have bad contracts. But I can fix that. What I can't fix is somebody who's willing to get on the phone for 4 hours a day, call people, follow up, show houses at 8 o'clock at night. That person's a heck of a lot harder to find than the guy who fills out the contract correctly.
That's
so,
right.
Understand what you're looking for when you're hiring people. And we all want rock stars. And I've got some on my team and I'm really appreciative of them. But the truth of the matter is give me 25 people doing 2 deals a month. And guess what? That's 50 deals a month. There's very few teams that do 600 deals a year. So 25 people times 2 deals a month, figure that out. That's 600 deals a year. And 2 deals a month is just very average, plugging along. So.
And yet, how few agents and team leaders are out there really trying to recruit at that level? How many of them are really giving it that kind of effort? Very, very few. And to your point, Brian, you're right. I'll take a moderate producer all day long. Yep. And I say moderate, there's a lot of people watching right now that there may be a solo agent and they're saying, well, heck, I do 20 deals a year and that's all I am. I work really hard to get there. You know what? That's great. That's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. Different strokes for different folks, right? But if what we're trying to build, if the goal is, and for the 4 of us, I know it is, if the goal is to build an actual business, yep, that is sustainable long term, that's going to last beyond the Zillow, stuff, or beyond the whatever's hitting the industry at this point in time, right? If I'm going to build a business that lasts, recruiting is a key component to that, and not just recruiting just anybody, but I got to recruit the people that I believe are going to really work. Now, to that point, and Brian, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Cheri, I know you, I think, feel very similar to what I do on this. I don't know if somebody's going to work till they're on my team. I can hear what they say. They can look great on paper, but I have no freaking clue if you're going to pick up the phone until you're on my team. And until I get a chance to see that, I don't know if you're going to be a rock star or not. So how do you guys feel about that? Are you hiring pretty much anybody, or are you only hiring the people that you're convinced ahead of time, oh, this is going to be a rock star?
I'll go. So I ask a couple of questions. First of all, by the way, anyone who's watching who's about to interview for a team, don't answer the question this way. How much money do you want to make? $100,000. What I know by that is you've given that zero thought, but $100,000 thought sounded good. So, it's really digging deep in an interview. You may or may not want to be in an interview with me, but ultimately you want to make $100,000. Give me a reason why. Yeah. And I want to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And I had someone tell me, well, I want to work 20 to 30 hours a week. And I said, we're not going to be a fit. I appreciate that, but getting them to be honest about how do you see your life? What do you mean? Well, tell me what your ideal day looks like. Well, I get up at 10 and, work until 2, and then I make $100,000 a year. Me too. Where do I sign up? So, you got to find out really what these people want to do and what they want to, somebody says to me, look, I'm willing to work as long as I can, as many hours as I can, because I want to pay for my kid to go to college. Or, yep, I got a guy on my team. I know he works hard because he has 3 jobs, and I'm not exaggerating. He has 3 jobs. He works on our team, he bartends, and he actually teaches martial arts, get fit type stuff. So he's super busy, but he doesn't want those other 2 jobs, and he's working towards getting rid of them. But I know that that guy's willing to work, and you know what? He's not the best agent on my team yet. Watch out, everybody. So, but he's willing to do those things. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody who goes, I've got a reason to get out of bed in the morning. And yeah, so that's what I thought.
I was going to say, Brian, but to Michael's point, someone can say all of those things in an interview, but I agree with Michael, until you actually give them the space and say, go do it, you don't actually know if their actions will match their words. And maybe it's a unique thing to San Diego. Maybe people in San Diego know what they should be saying in an interview, and we're the only city in the country that, I'm assuming you guys have the same challenges. People know what to say in an interview, right? And you can suss out and figure out.
Yeah.
What was that?
One thing is that I'm also looking for somebody who's going to be a good culture fit for us. So I don't want someone to come in and disrupt what we've got going on. So I'm really, really big on our culture, and I protect that sucker. I don't want anyone to shift it at all. So when I'm looking for someone that I'm going to hire, I'm also looking to see where your values are. Sometimes my interviews are extremely informal. You don't have to put on a suit and tie and come into the office and sit down. No, you don't need to do that. You might catch Cheri with a ponytail on the top of her head one day, maybe. But you don't need to do that. Because I want to know who you are. I want to know what you're working for, what you're working towards, because I have to know that as a team leader, I'm investing in you from day one. As soon as you sign, before you pick up the phone and make one single phone call, I am investing in you. I am. So if I'm going to invest in you, you got to be somebody that I want to invest in. The same way as if you're going to come onto this team, this has to be a team that's going to fit you also, because you're going to do a lot of hours. You are choosing to work versus staying at home with the kids or whatever that might be. So sometimes you have to be a culture fit.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about what do you really want your team to look like? And I think this is where we've really got to begin with the end in mind, right? So I've got to really start with, what do I want my team to look like 2 years from now? Because what I do today is going to impact that, right? So if I want a team of rock stars, I'm not going to be able to go out and just hire everybody, and everybody I hire is going to be a rock star all of a sudden. But what I can do is I cannot tolerate people that don't want to be rock stars. Like if I have somebody come on my team and they're not showing up for huddles, or they don't want to make calls, or they're comfortable being well below where we expect our agents to be, that may not be the culture on my team. Now, again, I'm not saying that you can't be profitable with agents that do a transaction every other month. If I'm in San Diego, one transaction every other month is a great agent on my team, right? I'm making $3 million a year on that agent or something like that. Because the sales prices are $10 billion a house down there. We're talking about you, Jesse. So,
I'll take it.
That being said, what I do need to be is very clear on what that expectation is. And I've got to also be very careful that as I hold people to an expectation, as I encourage them to succeed at a particular level, I've got to not lose those people if I'm okay keeping them on my team that aren't producing at that level. Because believe it or not, you really do need both, especially in the beginning stages of growing a team. So there's another thing that comes to my mind, and we've got only a few minutes left here, but this is a very important topic that we haven't covered yet. All of it takes energy. It is not easy to do this. I want to know, how are each of you maintaining the level of energy that it takes to fill everybody else's buckets when so rarely does anyone fill your bucket?
Well, I get mine every morning. So when I wake up in the morning, and I hate to say this, but I have less days that I don't feel like getting out of bed than what you guys said in the beginning. Then it's probably because I'm still so motivated. What I think is that I have 33 people plus my family plus my admin that I'm doing this for. So, and Ron Anderson's heard me say this a lot, that when I sit there and I want to hit the snooze button, I say to myself, I don't want to be average today. So I get up, and then I get up and I listen to something motivational while I'm getting dressed in the morning. I know that it takes me 45 minutes and it takes you 15, Brian, but I listen to something extremely motivational in the morning. In the morning, that keeps me going. It keeps me going. And I do it, and it takes me throughout the day. In the car, I'm on the phone talking business, or I'm listening to an audio book. I'm listening to something different that's motivational. Unless a kid's in the car, then you got Elmo or, I don't know, Johnny Papa or whatever the new thing is that's out there for all of us that have little kids. Is playing, so I'm making sure that when I get up in the morning, I'm shifting my brain into what I do call lioness mode. So I'm shifting my brain when I wake up every morning, because you got to. I mean, I think that you have to. I don't use my alarm. I'll be honest. I don't use the alarm. I just get up.
Awesome. And I wasn't saying, by the way, I appreciate you saying that, Cheri. I think most of us, when you do wake up, there is that drive, that sense of motivation. I just wanted to let people know there are a number of people, because I always get people asking me on Facebook and sending me messages and like, how do you get out of bed? Like, not how do you get out of bed, but when you wake up, aren't you tired? I just wanted to acknowledge it's okay to wake up tired. Yeah. Right? You don't have to wake up alert and alive. You might be tired, especially I have a 2.5-year-old. You have if you have young kids, that's normal to be tired. It's what you do and the decision you make in that moment. So you have this motivation that's driving you, right? I have my own motivation that drives me. And then once I get out of bed, for me, the first thing is exercise. That's what starts to fill my energy. Right? And we don't talk about it that much in Club Wealth. I know it's not cool in Club Wealth. Some of you guys, right, Michael? I shouldn't point fingers, right? I'm just kidding.
Of course it's cool. What are you talking about?
I'm kidding. But for me, it's a must. Everybody has things that they have. So for Cheri, it sounds like listening to the motivational piece. Sometimes I'll do motivational stuff. Sometimes it's straight up, I'm on a spin bike watching a stupid show. I don't need necessarily the motivation every day from that level. I need physically to move my body at a high level to get endorphins going and build energy up. That's what does it for me. That's my non-negotiable.
Yeah. Brian?
So, and this is, here's a little preview of some of the stuff I'm going to do at Listening Agent Bootcamp. Garbage in, garbage out for me. And, here's the thing, for every piece of garbage, and I'm not going to fall on any political side here, whether you're watching CNN, Fox, NBA, whatever, any place in between, I'm not trying to be political, it's all garbage. So sorry. I'm not correct, but it's propagandized. That's what it is. It's someone trying to, no one's on there going, the world's great, life is awesome. No one's saying that. And I'm not telling you not to watch the news. But for every hour that you watch the news, you need to put 10 hours of good information in your brain to compensate for that. And I think that people will think that that's insane, but it's really kind of true. If you want to get depressed, get up and watch the news for 4 hours a day. You don't need to worry about any of this anymore. So very seriously, putting good stuff in here. And here's an interesting number. 680. And people, where the heck did that number come from? So when I bought a car a year and a half ago, it had a thing, it shows how many hours I drove it until I reset it. And I let it go an entire year. I drove my car for 680 hours last year. I was like, holy crap, that's a lot of hours. Guess what, guys? I don't work with buyers very often. I probably worked with 2 buyers last year. I don't go on listing appointments I can't imagine how many hours a real estate agent who is a buyer's agent closing 50 deals a year, how many hours is that person driving every year? So my point is, there's an opportunity there that you can do like I do sometimes and listen to NBA radio. You can listen to MSNBC, CNN, Fox, whatever. Or maybe you can do audiobooks and hear, maybe you can listen to people. That's where I tend to go. About 70% of the time, I'm putting stuff on that can compensate for it because it's net time. Net time stands for no extra time. In other words, I'm going to be driving. Why not use this an opportunity to do something that I don't want to do at 10 o'clock at night, that I don't want to do at 4 o'clock in the morning? It's free time. It didn't cost me anything. And it's the only true source of multitasking that I can think of. So.
Yeah.
I'll go so far, by the way, Brian, to say don't watch the news. Like it's all bad. I know you'll be kinder about that, but that being said, we're at 9 o'clock on the hour. We've got to wrap up. We got a coach's call we got to get to. But here's what I'd like to do, and Jesse, not to cut you off, but we are literally out of time, so I have to. But that being said, you guys understand you can do this, right? Whatever it is you decide you want to accomplish in this business, you can accomplish it. You just got to make the decision that you're going to do it. You got to get out there, and you got to crush it every single day. It's particularly today. You got to take action today. It's like David Golden just commented in the comments. It's motion creates emotion, right? Success begets success. Activity begets activity. So you've got to go get into activity right now. Hope you guys have an awesome day. Thank you guys so much. And by the way, if you want to hear more from Cheri, Benjamin, and from Jesse Zagorsky, you can hear Brian all the time. Type in, we want more Cheri, or we want more Jesse. Type that in your comments right now. I want to hear it. I want to know. If you guys want them back, put it in there because we want to bring them back, and we love you guys, and we appreciate all that you do for us. So have an awesome day, everybody. And remember, you are really, truly inside, no matter how you feel right now, you really are world class.
Bye.